Now this is one scary story from a friend of mine about the lads' school in Exeter, Rhode Island. Back when she was in high school, there was an abandoned insane asylum that was just down the road from where she lived. And this place was rumoured to be extremely haunted. Now this place was opened in 1907 but was said to be closed down because of the horrible things that were happening to patients. Kids would always be sneaking into the property to have a look around because everything had been just left behind. But they'd have to park in the woods nearby because it was private property and patrolled by state police. One night a group of her friends decided to all go there, but she had a bad feeling, but just thought maybe it was just her being afraid. After they parked the car, her intuition was telling her to not get out, but she did. After only a few steps out of the car, her foot hit something. She looked down to see a wallet. She picked it up thinking it was one of her friends, but was horrified when she opened it. There was over 20 IDs in the wallet. Quickly told her friends to get back in the car and they never looked back. Even today, she still wonders what happened to all the people whose ID were in that wallet.
Here's why you always need to be careful when moving into a new house. So a boyfriend and a girlfriend saved up all their money and finally decided to move in together, and they were so excited even though they had to get a house that had to have a little bit of work done. They decided that the boyfriend would handle most of the construction in the house while the girlfriend peeled all the wallpaper off of the house. The previous owner had put it on the walls, on the ceiling, everywhere. The girl peeled off a piece of the wallpaper and she saw a name and a date written in the corner of the room. Curiosity got the best of the girl and she looked up the name and she realized this was a missing person who went missing on the exact date that was written on the wall. And this actually happened in every room of the house. So she called the police, and after they investigated for a little bit, two cops looked at each other and said, "Yep, it's human." The woman and her boyfriend walked up and said, "What was human? What's human?" Then the two cops looked at them and said, "Ma'am, where's the rest of the wallpaper you peeled off? That wasn't wallpaper, that was human skin."
Something really strange is happening with AI art. This creepy woman keeps appearing in AI-generated images. What's really disturbing is that her appearance is recognizable across all images, and AI artists don't know why she keeps reappearing. Furthermore, the style of art she appears in is usually highly disturbing. If there's one thing that is certain, this is straight out of our nightmares.
McKamey Manor. Haunted houses are an attraction that bring people from far and wide, especially later on in the year. But there's only one haunted house that nobody has ever been able to complete. In San Diego, California, there's a haunted house called McKamey Manor. Before you start this haunted maze, you have to sign off on a contract that states that McKamey Manor is not liable for damage done to your mental state, your body, or even death. And perhaps the scariest part is once you enter, you cannot leave. And here's where the conspiracy theory comes in. Several people believe that this haunted house was made just so that the creator, Russ McKamey, would be able to abuse and torture human beings and get away with it. Thankfully, right now, there have been no accounts of anybody who has died, but there have been several accounts of people who have had their mental state viciously scarred. And look, if you guys love conspiracy theories, make sure to check out this game that was gifted to me by friends over at Goliath Games. The game is called The Real Truth, and as you go throughout the game, you and your friends will go through several different conspiracy theories as you complete various missions. I've already played with my friends, and it's an amazing time, trust me. If you want to get the game yourself, just Google search Goliath Games, or you can honestly just click the link in my bio. And look, if you're searching for the scariest conspiracy theory that I may have ever heard of, then look no further than
one of the most beautiful and one of the most haunted. In 1892, a mysterious young woman who only identified herself as Lottie A. Bernard checked into San Diego's Hotel del Coronado. She arrived on Thanksgiving Day alone. She was using a fake name and said she was meeting a gentleman there. And many believed that this was a secret lover. But days passed and this gentleman never showed. Hotel staff found the mystery woman lying near the beach one day. She had decided to end it all. Police realized that Lottie Bernard didn't exist and couldn't find anything to positively ID the woman. And through newspapers, she became simply known as the Beautiful Stranger. She was later ID'd as 24-year-old Kate Morgan. And ever since, hotel visitors and employees alike have reported ghostly encounters. Coincidentally, many of them in Kate Morgan's room, hearing a woman's voice, footsteps, TV, and lights flickering on and off. Most chillingly, the ghost of Kate Morgan herself has been seen in the hallways and along the shore where she passed. To this day, the story of Kate Morgan, the Beautiful Stranger, fascinates guests, and her room is the most requested in the hotel. I visited the Hotel del Coronado a few years back, and it is one of the most beautiful hotels, but I didn't see Kate. Have you ever been? And if so, have you spotted the Beautiful Stranger?
This is why you should always take your lockdown drills seriously. In 2017, two 16-year-olds were in their school bathroom when the lights suddenly went out and their school went into lockdown. Feeling rebellious, they decide, you know what, let's go explore the school a little bit first, and then we'll go follow procedure. They step out of the bathroom and look down the hall towards their classroom, and they see this large figure standing in front of their classrooms. It's definitely not a student, it's not a teacher. He's got ragged clothes on, and he starts walking towards them. They dart right back into the bathroom to the corner stall where they hide, praying that that man didn't see them. The man bursts in and starts yanking open all the stalls. Not wanting to see what happens when he gets to their stall, they get on the ground and start crawling to the side of the room where they finally get up and make a run for the door. They look back and he's holding a gun. The boys manage to get away safely and no one's hurt, but the police never capture the ragged man.
This is why you should never explore abandoned places. Around 2007 and 2008, a few teenage friends would often hang out at an old abandoned school. The abandoned school that they would hang out at was very small, with only 8 classrooms, a cafeteria, 2 bathrooms, and a room no one has ever been in due to it being boarded off completely. The school has been abandoned since the 80s, and ever since they had to board up all windows and doors due to people trespassing. Although the school had been completely boarded up, the teenagers found a way to enter through a classroom window where the board was completely ripped off. The teenagers had their own routine where whoever got out of school first would go to the abandoned building and check all the classrooms to make sure it was safe. On this one day, 2 of the friends were the first to get out of school, so as usual, they walked down to the abandoned building. But upon entering and stepping out from the classroom and into the large hallway, the 2 teenage boys had saw a large man. One of the boys let out a loud scream in fear, but the large man didn't seem to be shocked or scared. He didn't even react. A few moments later, the large man turned around and asked the 2 teenage boys if they have seen the exact name of one of their friends. The 2 teenage boys didn't recognize this large man and didn't know how he knew his friend's name, but immediately they hurried out of the building and left. The group of teenagers didn't return back to the abandoned school until about 3 to 4 months later, when it was the middle of summer vacation and they thought it would be a good idea to climb to the top of the roof. When they had made it to the top of the roof, they noticed a hole that they haven't seen before, which was about the size of a football. They looked through the hole and didn't recognize a single thing inside of the room. But then they remembered that one room they had never explored because it was completely boarded off, which was most likely the room that they were looking into. To get a better look at the room, they had one of their friends, Amanda, stick her phone into the room and start recording to see what was in there. Immediately after sticking her arm through the hole with her phone to record, Amanda had let out a blood-curdling scream and retracted her arm from the hole, but unfortunately though, she had dropped her phone into the room. Amanda was certain that something had knocked her phone out of her hand, and as they looked down through the hole, they could see her phone just laying on the ground. The group of teenagers immediately entered the abandoned school and went straight to the room where Amanda had dropped her phone into. After about 30 minutes, they finally managed to get the board off of the door that led into the room. They stepped into the room and just stared in silence. To this day, the teenagers have no clue why this room was in a school building and sincerely hope it wasn't used for what it looked like. As they entered the room, they noticed the concrete walls along with 2 metal bowls to the left. In the back of the room, there was 5 dangling chains that looked like it would fit around someone's neck. Needless to say, they picked up Amanda's phone and immediately left the building. The group of teenagers never returned back to that school and still don't know why to this day that room was in there.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit. There is a place on Earth called the Middle of Nowhere located in New Mexico, and here there is a house that is home to an older couple and their dog. But there were several claims of supernatural things happening around here, especially of a skinwalker walking on the premises. And then miraculously, the older couple mysteriously vanished, leaving the only survivor behind to be their dog. And if you haven't been able to piece it together yet, this phenomenal story actually inspired the creation of popular kids cartoon Courage the Cowardly Dog. You could die from hundreds of thousands of things on this earth, but a lot of people have an irrational fear of dying from a shark. But did you know, based off statistics, you're more likely to die from a vending machine than a shark? And while we're talking about it, on average, vending machines actually kill around 13 people per year. And finally, pigs are monsters. But before I get into that, you guys, make sure to go peep my bio and upvote me on famous birthdays as we continue our quest to overthrow Rihanna. A woman was feeding her pet pigs when she suffered from a seizure and passed out and then died. But the seizure didn't kill her. She would die due to blood loss after the pigs began to eat her unconscious body, which leads us into our fact that pigs will eat humans if given the opportunity with no issue. And they'll continue to eat until the only things left are your teeth and some bones. That one really freaks me out. And look, I'm sure a lot of these were hard to hear, but that's why these are some extremely unsettling facts. And trigger warning, because the ones we're going over today delve into some very intense subject matter. A 58-year-old man was living alone in Japan when he started to hear a lot of really weird noises going on throughout his house, specifically from the attic. He also noticed that food was starting to go missing throughout his house, and he knew he wasn't eating it. So he decided to set up some security cameras around his house, and what he found would horrify him. He discovered that there was a woman who was living in his attic and in his cupboards, and food had been going missing for about a year's time, so this woman had been there for over a year. So make sure you go check around your house. Now, H.H. Holmes is referred to as the OG pinnacle original serial killer. This man was so dedicated to his craft that he built a castle, but there's a reason behind that. Holmes built this castle where he would invite people over, acting like a very calm, harmless man, feed them dinner, and then kill them. But the craziest part about this is that it's estimated that Holmes was able to rack up 200 victims. Those are all-time GOAT conversation like serial killer numbers. Like a ridiculous amount of bodies. And finally, Canada's youngest killer. The youngest killer in Canada was a 12-year-old girl who was dating a 23-year-old drug addict. Her and her drug addict boyfriend would go on to kill her entire family, including her 2 parents and her younger brother. Now I hear what you're saying, why would she do something like this? The reasoning was because her parents, rightfully so, did not want her dating a 23-year-old. Eventually, the 12-year-old and the 23-year-old would both get caught and would be imprisoned. But the girl has actually been freed, and it's been speculated that she's going to the University of Alberta right now. And now look, I know this was a heavy video, and I apologize for that, but that's why these are some extremely unsettling facts. And I found all these on Reddit. In the year 1961, the US Air Force got extremely close to detonating a nuclear bomb over North Carolina. This bomb was said to be 260 times stronger than the bomb that went off in Hiroshima. So essentially, this would have destroyed a majority of the East Coast. By the year 2100, humanity could cease to exist. This is because with ocean temperatures rising, by the year 2100, it's said that the ocean will be about 6 degrees Celsius hotter. And this rise in temperature could cause a disruption in the photosynthesis process and oxygen-making organisms, thus causing all of us to suffocate. The Yellowstone caldera is a simmering supervolcano that could go off at any second. The only problem with this is that the last time a supervolcano went off, it almost caused the extinction of all humans. Sudden death syndrome is a very sudden and unexpected death that could happen in your sleep. What this is that seemingly healthy individuals will feel no symptoms of feel amazing the night before, and they will die in their sleep. A random arrhythmia will start in your heart, and it'll push you into a heart attack and kill you. And look, I know hearing these is not what you want to do with your day, and I'm sorry, but that's why. Who can you trust the most in your life? Family, friends, loved ones? But what happens when one of those people that you hold so dear to your heart betray you? This is the story behind Peacock's new drama, A Friend of the Family. This show is based on the story of Jan Broberg and a very close family friend named Robert Birchtold, otherwise known as Brother B. Things progress nicely for this family until one day, a very close person to them betrays them in a way that nobody saw coming. It's an amazing show, and I urge each and every single one of you to go check it out since it's currently streaming on Peacock. But I have a question for you.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. Part 27. This photo shows an elderly couple doing the hokey pokey with a man named Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK Killer. He installed alarms for a living, and ironically, many clients booked his services to prevent him from entering their homes. This photo shows Luchadora Juana Barraza. She was sold to a man for 3 beers by her mother until her stepdad found her at age 17. Over the years that followed, she would strangle and rob over 45 old women that reminded her of her abusive mom. The man in the background is Christopher Wilde, aka the Beauty Queen Killer. This picture was taken on June 15th, 1984, and Chris is scouting future victims at a beauty pageant. This photo shows John Edward Robinson holding a baby girl named Tiffany. Just one day before this photo was taken, he murdered the baby's mother and gave Tiffany to his brother, saying that she was adopted. His brother, along with Tiffany, didn't find out the truth for 15 years.